Welcome back to the Contech Onsite podcast. This podcast is dedicated to the innovators and the pioneers shaping the future of the construction industry.
We've got 1,500 designers in those offices, so we're quite a large business. I was offered an opportunity to go and work for an offshoring company in Vietnam. I was blown away with the technical skills that I was seeing in Vietnam, the digital technology that they were driving.
Yes, you were lucky, but it sounds like you've been creating your luck, right? You could have easily stayed in the manufacturing space, but something kept motivating you. What kept you in the industry?
The challenges. I love what I do. I love technology. I love change. And I think that change is what drives me.
Hey, if you're a regular listener or just as passionate about construction technology as I am, take a moment, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support us. It lets a platform know that our content matters, and growing the show keeps us motivated to bring our very best to every single episode. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the episode. Today, I'm pleased to host Chris Smeaton. Chris is the Global Digital Design Director at HBA, Hirsch Bedner Associates. He's a recognized leader in design technology, specializing in digital transformation, smart cities, digital twinning, and application development. Today, he's going to talk to us about how digital frameworks and transformation can significantly enhance revenue and establish your company as a digital leader. Welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself and tell us about HBA and your role as Global Digital Design Director.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Smeaton. Obviously, I'm the Global Digital Design Director for HBA. I've got over 17 years experience in the industry. I was brought into HBA around 12 months ago to drive their digital strategy and innovation strategy within the business, focusing on design, BIM adoption, and advanced technologies. HBA are a hospitality design firm. We've got over 6 years as a business with over 24 global offices around the world. We've got 1,500 designers in those offices, so we're quite a large business. But what a lot of people don't understand about HBA, we've got around 14 different verticals within our company, which go from obviously ID, interior design, residential, we have lighting, architecture, landscape, product design, art, branding, and many more. Our business has a lot of different services to bring a lot of capability and a lot of design iteration to our clients. So my role in HBA, like I said, is to drive innovation, come up with a digital roadmap, and where is our company going to be in the next 1 to 5 years, and be able to implement that in not only in the way that we design, but the efficiency in the way that we deliver our products to our clients.
So I want to give a little bit of background on so how do you get here? How do you find yourself in this position?
Sometimes I ask myself that question sometimes. Just taking the right opportunities at the right time. I think I've been quite lucky in my career. But like we touched on quickly at the beginning, like I've been using CNC machines since I was around 15. I came from a very progressive school and doing 3D modeling. I did manufacturing and design when I was at school, and then I went into university and I did 3D furniture design, programming, and interior architecture. Following that, I got offered a work placement at a landscape company when I was finishing my final year. So I stepped into landscape in 2007, and I was blown away by the lack of adoption of new technology in the industry, because it was my first step properly into the industry. And the fact that we weren't leveraging 3D modeling, everything was still quite paper-based. CAD was used, but not really efficiently. It really took me back. So that kind of set me on the stead of my career of we need to look at this industry around what we've got available to us and how we can use those tools and processes to enhance what we do. So I've built a career around doing that. And I spent the first 8 years of my career doing construction documentation and delivery, which really made me understand the industry, understand what contractors needed, and understand the buildability of our projects, and then how we can design to enable that. From there, I then moved over to the Middle East to work for a very large multidisciplinary engineering firm. Being part of that big group then got me across all of the other disciplines within the industry, and I started to migrate into architecture, engineering, civil engineering. Once we started having a bit of a downturn in the UAE, and I was offered an opportunity to go and work for an offshoring company in Vietnam. And when I went over to Vietnam for an interview, I was blown away with the technical skills that I was seeing in Vietnam, the digital technology that they were driving, the passion that the Vietnamese had. So I took that role as director of R&D for that business. And that gave me great insights to the struggles that companies have when they offshore to these locations and when they look at building offshoring for any of their services, but also working with multiple different companies from around the world, the different markets, the different projects, and the different challenges that they have. I became the digital lead for Southeast Asia, driving their digital roadmap, what they called their blueprint for digital transformation, which was amazing. Obviously, once again, working with multiple locations, multiple regions. Once COVID hit, it was a little bit of a challenge living in Vietnam for my family. So I moved back to the Middle East to work for engineering firm again, driving digital capability within the business. So seeing how we can enhance our teams. And then I was offered the opportunity to come into HBA to drive this and be the global leader of the business, which was an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. So I moved into HBA to drive this, and that's what I've been doing for the last 12 months. And it's been an incredible journey to this day, not without its challenges, like any business, but we're making some massive headways within the business around how we digitally deliver these projects internally, but also to our clients, and the advancements in AI and the impacts that's having to our business and the new tools that we're developing internally.
What a journey. And I think every one of these steps, like you said, yes, you were lucky, but it sounds like you've been creating your luck, right? You could have easily stayed in the manufacturing space, but something kept motivating you to drive this digital transformation, be able to see things that maybe other people didn't believe in or weren't able to see. So I want to tap a little bit into that. And what was your thinking? What kept you in the industry?
The challenges. I love what I do. I love technology. I love change. And I think that change what drives me. Being able to, like, you've seen it from my career, from the different locations I've lived in, the different businesses I've worked in, the different industries. I like change, and I like driving innovation. And I like seeing these products and opportunities that come through this change management. And I think that's what's driven me throughout my whole career, being able to see where the challenges are in the business. And I've been lucky enough, like you said, to have these opportunities where I've been able to take roles which the industry have been moving in. Back in 2015, a lot of companies were starting to look at how to use offshoring and how to use these remote opportunities. And then 2018, I got offered the opportunity to go and work for one of these businesses. And one of the biggest ones, we had over 300 members of staff working with multiple different companies. I saw it as an aspect which our industry needs to adopt and needs to learn. And it gave me a good opportunity to go and learn that firsthand from a business driving technology. So it really helped me. And then I took those learnings and moved back into the consultancy and brought those learnings with me.
One of the things that's very apparent is that you're seeing challenges as opportunity, right? Many people choose not to see it that way or tend to deal with it or avoid the challenge, but it seems that you take that challenge head on. You described also the work in Vietnam as something transformative, also understanding how people are very digitally driven.
So look at my experience in Vietnam. They're a young generation, okay? And there's a lot of talent coming out of the universities in Vietnam, and they're very technology driven, okay? And very skilled, very dedicated to what they do. And they're like sponges. They want to absorb all of the information from their leaders. And it's an amazing combination to get. Obviously, it's not without its challenges, like we talked about. There's language barrier and there's problems like that. But the fundamental capability of the teams in these locations are very high, and they're really driven. A lot more driven than I see in a lot of already emerged markets, because they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to enhance their own career and their own footprint, and they really do drive new innovation and technology, which really helps businesses. Now, as we touched on before, I know a lot of companies look at these regions for cost savings, and obviously it is a big factor of why we look at these regions, because design costs are going down, everything's on a downward trajectory, and we need to find ways that we can deliver this more effectively and cheaper. But one aspect of these areas is their capability. So you've got to, if it's cost a little bit more, it might be worth it because their capability is so much more prominent than we have in some of the other locations. And also, when we talk about some of the challenges we have in this industry, it's around talent. Talent is very difficult to find and it's very difficult to procure. And when we look at different markets, such as the UAE or the Middle East, for instance, it's really hard to secure that talent because we've got a lot of very large companies here from owners and the likes, which are they're able to offer packages and things that we can't offer as a design firm, or a lot of design firms can't offer, should I say. So leveraging these other markets taps us into this capability where we don't have to worry about retention. We don't have to worry about losing this talent because the market there it's not there. We don't get those same kind of challenges. So we can really invest in those people. We can really help them advance in their career and also leverage their capabilities inside the business, which is a huge benefit for any company.
Okay, so let's maybe dive in a little bit more into what is a digital roadmap? Why should construction companies consider building one, and how would they benefit from it?
Well, every single company should have a digital roadmap, right? It's your statement of where your business is going to be. It's your vision, okay? If you don't know where you're going to be, how are you going to implement anything? Okay, really key to focus on this and look at not only the short-term gains, look at what's going to happen in the next 12 months, but where your business is going to be in the next 5 years and how you're going to migrate from where you are now to there in a dynamic way. Because as you know, the industry is changing rapidly. And when we're looking at where we're going to be in the next 5 years, we need to understand that the market might not be there in the next 5 years. It might be something completely different. So we need these overarching goals and visions for the company, but with strategic KPIs along the way to make sure that we can benchmark that. One way that I look at building a roadmap or a digital plan, I was introduced this a few years ago, which was called a plan on a page, because it's really clear. It really cuts down all of the fluff on a digital delivery roadmap and gets down to the point of what you're trying to do. And it's easier to sell to people rather than a massive document with lots of images and lots of text. It really narrows it down to really key points. And you look at different things. So you look at, where are you? Where is your business? What capabilities do you have? Where does your market operate? What do you do? Okay. And then you move into your aspirations. Okay. So you have a little section around aspirations. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? What does your future look like? And then it's underpinned by 3 different other categories. Where do you want to play? So where do you want to build these capabilities? Where are you looking? Are you looking at building digital twinning? Are you looking at BIM adoption? Are you looking at AI? Then you move into, how are you going to win? So how are you going to do that? So if your vision's this, and this is what you're going to do, the vision, how are you going to do it? And once again, look at key points. So if you're looking at BIM, for instance, are you going to look at getting ISO accredited? How are you going to do that? Are you going to create digital frameworks? Are you going to hire new talent? Are you looking at investing in the talent that you already have? And then the next one is your KPIs. So how are you going to benchmark your success? Okay. And that might be, once again, around getting ISO accredited, getting your teams certified in certain softwares, building digital services, coming up with a client strategy. So if you're looking at building products that you're going to sell to your client, which clients? Where are they? What are their challenges? These are all the key KPIs that will help you drive towards your aspirations as a business. And I think that's really key. Each one of these sections will have more supporting documents and more strategy, but it really puts it in a way that is easy for you to communicate that to your C-suite and to the people that are going to be implementing it for you. Because I think communication is a real key when it comes to digital transformation. If you're not able to articulate it in a very clear way, you won't get buy-in and people won't know how to implement it.
Okay, so who's responsible for creating this document? Like right now, a construction company that's listening to us, who should be the person in the company that should be designing this document, putting it together?
So it really depends on the business. You've got to migrate to strategies that work for the individual company. Okay, so for HBA, it was me. All right, so I've got the experience of building these roadmaps in the past, but it's not a one-man show. Digital transformation is not a solo sport. It needs to be done in holistic to all of the different people you have in the business. So you get the strategy down with where you think it's going to be. You need C-suite buy-in. So you need to understand what the C-suite levels visions are for the company. But then you also need to understand what the other divisions. So if you've got multiple divisions, what markets are they going to play in? What are they looking at doing? And you've got to build that into your strategy. So it will be driven by your digital lead or your global digital design director, but it needs to be in partnership with the other leaders inside your business because it needs to be relatable to them. And you don't know everything about the business, okay? Especially when you step into the company to begin with. You might think you do, and you might think you know their product, their clients, but especially when you're working in multiple regions, not all of these visions will work in each one of these regions. So you need to understand what those clear 5-year goals are that are going to be able to incorporate the whole of your global market, and also where you can hit the key indicators leading up to that, the short-term gains.
Let's talk small. Like if I'm a small company, okay, should I be doing this? Should I be building a digital roadmap? And how should that process look like? And I'm also dying to ask who should be invited to put this together? Because you just said it's not a one-man show, but who are the people? Who are the stakeholders that should be invited to this thing?
Sure. Yeah, the process that I just described is quite a common process, and I can't remember who came up with it now, but it's been a way of driving digital roadmaps for many years, and a lot of large organizations adopt it. But it also works for smaller businesses because it's a really clear way of doing digital implementation. Okay, and it can even work on a single innovation. So you're looking at implementing BIM. Okay. Once again, if you use the same framework, so what is our current context? Okay. Our market is being driven towards BIM. Our clients are asking for it. Okay. We can't win work without it. Do we have the capability inside our business to do it at the moment? Who are those people? Okay. These are questions that we should be asking ourselves to get the current context. And then what are aspirations? Do you want to be an ISO certified business? Okay. Do you want to deliver BIM on every single project? That could be one of your aspirations. Okay. Do you want to drive other services from your BIM model, such as quantity takeoffs, things like that? And then you break it down into where you want to play, how you're going to win, and your winning capabilities again. So yeah, this can work whether it's a global approach, which you're going to be looking at more really high-end KPIs, or whether it can be really fine-grade implementation on sole digitalization strategies such as BIM, such as CAD, such as any of these sorts of things. This strategy can help you get the fundamentals in place in an easier point solution that you can then expand on with the different stakeholders. And these stakeholders need to be your leaders in your business. You need to understand your business context, the finances of your business, how your business makes money, where your business is in that regard. You need to bring in your IT, someone that understands IT framework, okay? Because implementing BIM, or should we say implementing AI to make it a bit more relevant to a lot of companies that are looking at bringing in AI to their process, that has a huge impact. It has an impact on data security, because a lot of people are using free AI platforms where they're just uploading all of your business content onto these platforms. Someone that understands copyright and where your NDAs might be affected by this. You need your IT infrastructure, yeah, because the investment on the machines. So if you're looking at implementing stuff like Stable Diffusion, the machines that you need are very powerful, and you're going to have to look at the infrastructure in place and how you're going to support that financially as you move forward. And then also start to look at your teams. You need to speak to your team leaders. What are the challenges they're having? Who are the people inside their teams that show the capability of being able to upskill or may already have that capability inside their business? So one thing I do when I step into a business, one of the first things is I run a capability assessment, okay, globally. So I send out a questionnaire to the entire business, focused at key capabilities around the business, whether it's visualization, programming, and the likes, with tailored questions. What that gives me is it gives me a holistic view of where the business is. And once again, that can be on a 2,000 people business, or it could be on a 50 people business. Yeah. And it goes into the real fine grade, what tools do you use? how good are you at those tools between 1 and 5. And what that enables me to do is then benchmark the business. Okay, we can then look at where the company is, what our technology stack is, who the people are we should be focusing on, and then how we can drive that to move forward.
Okay, so yeah, we did a pretty solid deep dive, and I think one of the thing that resonates here a lot is if you are leading digitalization, right, or you're leading the innovation, you're not a manager. You need to be a leader. You need to know where things are going, and that's like you're touching on it. If you're building a digital roadmap, you need to know better even than the business where we need to go. You're looking 5 years ahead, and I think that's a big mind shift that a lot of people in the industry need to make. You're not in the managing space where you're just facilitating what there is. You got to really be thinking ahead. And so it's leading me to the next question. From your experience, what are the 3 most important qualities that a great digital design director needs to have? Like the 3 most important ones.
Tell me. No, I'm joking. I think from my side, one thing that's really helped me is passion. I'm really passionate about this, really passionate about what I do, really passionate about technology and driving it. And that helps me. Yeah, it helps me get the buy-in. If people see you believe in what you're doing, they get attracted to that belief, and you can find buying a lot more easier. But communication and people skills. Yeah, like I touched on before, this is not a solo sport. You're going to need people to invest in you. You're going to need to get belief in what you're doing. Being able to communicate your strategy in a clear way that other people understand, and they also understand what's in it for them. Okay, because I think there's a lot of disconnection sometimes between what the business wants to do and the people that it's going to actually impact, and where they see where the benefits are for them. Okay, communication and people skills are very important to someone that is looking at driving any digital transformation inside the business, because you're now in the business of change management, and that is not an easy place to be, because people don't like change. No one likes change, except from probably myself. But a lot of people struggle with change. They get worried whether the job's going to still be relevant. What happens if they can't do it? Those sorts of things. So those people communication skills are very important to reassure the people about getting new people inside the company. It's not about completely changing the way we're doing things. It's about helping you. It's about helping you where you're going to be in the next 5 years in the business. Yeah, putting you in the right stead to make sure that you're able to be more relevant inside a changing market. And I'm here to help you do that. And also with those skills, the benefit you're going to get is you're going to find it easier to deliver your projects. You're going to be able to get rid of this highly commoditized work that you're doing at the moment and focus more on what you love to do, like design or looking at those sorts of aspects of the business. And one of the other things is, like I said around just before, was around the commercial and financial acumen. Yeah, you need to understand the finances of the business, okay? Because digital transformation is not a cheap journey for a lot of businesses. You can do it, obviously, cheaply. That might take longer, but there is going to be some investment. There's going to be some investment in your leadership if you don't already have it in the company. You might have to restructure the teams, okay, to maybe promote some of the people that have these high capabilities that you need to drive. And you need to invest in hardware, software. But you need to do it understanding the financial status of your business, how your business is performing financially, and be able to do it in a way that's not going to impact the company. So one of the biggest things I did when I stepped into HBA is I looked at our technology stack, okay? And I looked at how that was implemented globally around the world. And I found out that it was very siloed in the way that we approached buying of our software, okay? And this is quite common in a lot of companies, okay? It's not unique to HBA. So what we did was we built a strategy around consolidating that software, okay? Looking at bringing it into one vendor, into one location, under one time for renewals, okay? That enabled us then to manage our cash flow in the business, negotiate better deals, because no longer are we 25 different businesses all ordering software. We're one business with a huge portfolio of software that we need. That gives us negotiation power. What that enabled us to do was radically reduce that cost of our software, okay? Which then give us some budget then to put towards some of these R&D and digital innovation areas that we're looking at pushing inside the business. So it's about understanding where you can relocate some of these funding inside the company, where you can cut costs, not specifically to make profit, because profit will come, but where we can then take that and use that money to really spearhead certain things inside the business to bring these innovations. And then obviously look at the low-hanging fruit around how long does it take us to do a render, for instance. And if we just bring in Midjourney, will that enhance our capability? How much money are we looking at saving? And that really then will start to build the fundamental backbone of what you're doing and the belief in those people from a leadership and implementation point to get behind you and help you drive that. But yes, it's mainly around people.
Okay. So there's a bunch of really great points here, but really when we're talking about, it's also at the end of the day, every company boils down to two things: people and services, right? And having that, being able to deliver that message and, and really help people understand digitalization, innovations there to service people, just like you're describing, right? We want you to be relevant in 5 years. This is what we need to do. Obviously, you need to do this. I need to do this as a company. So it's really fascinating to really hear this breakdown. We spoke before about, we're speaking here about the goals. We're speaking about how your insight, right, into the future is able to even help, I'd say, restructure, right, even teams. Let's talk about something we spoke a bit about before the podcast is how are goals? How should goals be defined? Like we were talking about BIM and how people miss that kind of understanding where, what's the purpose? What do you even want to do with the model? Why is that so important? Why is that message even important? It's cool. It's flashy. It seems like it could work. Why not just shove something into the company and see what happens?
And see it all fail.
yeah, pretty much.
So
that looks cool. Let's do that, right?
Oh, look at this lovely model. Yeah, it's great. It's just cost me twice as much to build. So to unpack that, there's different aspects of that. There's your company reasons, and then there's the industry reasons. And I know we touched on this a little bit where we talked a little bit, like everyone talks about the golden thread of how these models are then translated from design to build to construction to operation. But like we touched on before, the models are built for different purposes. And it's really difficult to translate those models from a design to a contractor because the way that the outcomes for a contractor are completely different to a design firm. Yeah. And the fee structure and everything else that benefits from each one of those models are completely different. The way that we build a design model is to enhance our design. It's to enhance our communication, our production of our drawings, the theming and everything else, where a contractor is around the buildability of a model, right? So how are we going to build this? And what are the advantages of the way that we construct this model are going to help build this better, quicker, cheaper, okay? And sometimes that transition is very challenging within the industry. In fact, a lot of time, I've not seen a model truly go from one stage all the way to the end. There is normally a gap break where the model is taken away and then totally rebuilt by somebody to go after the certain aspects. So contractors, for instance, they won't necessarily use your design model. In fact, I haven't come across a contractor that has like solely used a design model because the way they procure the materials, the way they build their assets are completely different to the way that we design them. And to have to translate that model into a construction model normally takes longer than it would take to rebuild it from scratch. So a lot of the contractors that I've dealt with in the past, they take it as point of reference, but then they'll rebuild it again, which kind of undermines what we're trying to do inside the industry. So trying to get that engagement a lot earlier is where I think the whole industry is trying to move to, where we get the contractor, we get the operator to talk right at the beginning of the project and discuss how we're going to build these models. And that might change the way that designers approach the building of these models and the production that we do. And that might come at a fee. And it's trying to understand that and try to reallocate these fees to try to enhance the whole project rather than any other way. And I think that's a huge challenge. The other thing with BIM implementation inside a company is to understand it's not just about a model, okay? The whole way that you're going to deliver your project is totally different, okay? The naming strategies that come with the ISO 19650, the methodologies of work in progress, sharing, understanding that having all the QA/QC procedures in place and documented. These are all real big challenges within design firms when they're looking at adopting BIM. It's not just about creating a 3D model. And I think a lot of people miss that when they look at that implementation. And I think that's a huge challenge. And some of the challenges I've seen as well within companies that, especially the big companies, where they have a design team and they have a production team, okay? The design team might necessarily not see any benefits of doing BIM, right? Because it all comes with the production side of it. Yeah, quicker sections, quicker takeoff, quicker decision-making, clash detection, all of these things that bring these real advantages from using a model. The design teams might not necessarily see that like aspect of it. And if those financials aren't connected, they will never see the benefit for them. The company will see the benefit, but those design teams won't see the benefit. And it's being able to try and communicate that in a way that they understand why they're going to change their processes in the design stage to then help with the delivery, because that can be a real disconnect between a lot of companies.
Okay. And so really, what would you say is, the right process or the right flow? Obviously, we all started here where we need to start with, why do we even want the model? Why do we want a BIM model in the first place? But what would you say today? It seems like there's a lot of fragmentation in terms of design, and then we're going to have to create a new model and a new model. Like, what's the smartest approach to this thing? If I'm a company that is either today on the cusp of starting to use BIM, or I've been starting, and let's just say I haven't figured it out.
So obviously, once again, that depends on the markets you're operating and it depends on the projects. I think that ship has sailed for a lot of companies, especially ones that work in the Middle East and in Europe. It's now mandated on near enough every single project. So you don't have a choice. When I first started looking at, I implemented, I think my first BIM project in 2008. Before BIM was a really big thing. We implemented it because it helped with production, right? It helped with design. We were able to build these things in 3D and be able to coordinate a lot more efficiently than we ever did when we were trying to coordinate in 2D documentation. And then the 2D documentation side was hugely beneficial for the business. We're able to do these sections, these plans more rapidly than we would ever be able to do before, and changes then were able to be done a lot more quickly. So it's trying to understand where the stage of your market is and where the benefits are for your business, okay? And a lot of people obviously talk about Revit in this industry, and Revit is a phenomenal tool, and it's one of the reasons why it's been adopted for many companies. And it really does drive that productivity side of things. There's sheets and everything else that you can get from that. But are you a design firm? Is that really your focus? We had a big challenge in the business because we do obviously production, but a lot of our teams are design focused. Okay, they do design. So what are the tools we need to look at for design? It's Rhino, SketchUp. We're using SketchUp, Rhino, 3ds Max, right? They're predominantly our three major tools when it comes to early stage. So where is our technology stack able to feed these tools into, and where can we build these advantages? So a lot of businesses I've went into are very good at Revit, but then they use SketchUp, okay? This is, once again, you're going to have to rebuild that model. Yeah, there is tools like Helix and other things out there that can do it to a certain extent, but just a change to Rhino could make a huge benefit to the business, because you're able to use Rhino inside Revit and you're able to translate those design models immediately into production models without all of that rebuilding of those models. So it's understanding your entire flow, understand your business. What is the tool stack you use at different stages, and seeing those connections between those. And maybe bringing in one tool might be able to really enhance your capability.
Okay. So we're unfortunately have to wrap up. I want to continue this conversation, but I thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. Amazing insights. There's so much to unpack here.
No, thank you very much for the invite, and I'm happy to continue the conversation at any time.